Our research topic is decomposing the cultural effect on household saving behaviors in China. We propose that the reason why Chinese families have comparatively high saving rate is that China emphasizes strong family ties. Specifically, even if children grow up, parents may still feel obliged to support their children's life, such as paying the down payment for their children's houses, which can result in high household saving. Here are some comments from experts on Chinese relatively high savings rate.
The Chinese savings rate is very high, but that's actually very good sometimes. Americans don't save enough, so I think there's a lot to be learned from China.
China has a big surplus. It's producing more than it's consuming. It would be better to consume that at home and increase the standard of living, of improve education, to improve medical things, and for people to spend themselves on what they want.
Despite that we do not have variables directly measuring the tightness of family relationship, we can study the effect of children's conditions, including marriage status and gender, on household saving behaviors. One justification of our approach is that in China, parents' main family responsibility and reasons of saving is for their children's, including paying for their tuition fees and housing, and therefore we believe children's conditions in a family can shed some light on our exploration of whether the importance attached to family plays a significant role on saving behaviors. A survey from Chinese Household Income Project in 2002 asked rural households why they save. There were 7 possible reasons: children's wedding, children's education, bequest to children, build a house, retirement, medical expenses, and others. We categorize the first 3 reasons as directly related to children. In the following table, we display the percentage of households that choose a given category as either the most important or the second most important reason for savings. Through the table, we can see that the main reasons of savings in Chinese rural family is directly related to children. In our study, we pay special attention to the gender of children. According to Chinese tradition, the groom's family tend to take more financial responsibility for the wedding preparation, which is partly displayed in the table above, and the house purchasing. Additionally, the sex ratio in China increases to 1.135, which makes it harder for males to get married. Therefore, the family with sons is likely to save more to enhance the competitiveness of their sons in the marriage market. The data we use is a China Family Panel Study 2010 survey. Due to data limitation, we cannot distinguish the role of respondents in the family. To ensure that we compare apples with apples, we focus on those 3-person nuclear family. Our OLS estimating equation is defined as the following. We include variables to capture the life cycle effect, the vulnerability of a family to health problem, and the financial condition of a family. According to Table 1, on average, the saving rate of the family with sons is 3.35% higher than the family with daughters. We also exclude the bottom and top 5% savers to check the robustness of the regression results. Specifically, an uncommon one-time expenditure such as a big hospital bill could make a household savings rate appear unusually low. Conversely, an uncommon one-time income such as a lottery win could make the savings rate appear unusually high. Neither is representative of how much a household intends to save under normal circumstances. In both cases, the coefficient of a child's gender is statistically significant at 1% level. More importantly, it is reasonable to believe that a child's gender is an exogenous variable if we focus on households with a single child. Abinstein showed that sex ratio imbalance is overwhelmingly a result of sex-selective abortions at higher orders of birth. That is, the gender of the firstborn child is not determined by parents. This is particularly true in rural areas, since the second child is officially permitted if the first child is a girl, and since many families exhibit a preference for a balanced gender sex ratio, one boy and one girl, over having two boys. There's very little reason to perform a sex-selective abortion on the first pregnancies. To better understand the heterogeneity of the effect of child's gender on saving rate, we create dummies for households in different income quantiles and interact them with child's gender in Table 3. There is some evidence that the saving response by the family with sons is weaker for lower income family. One explanation could be that those families lose hope for marriage for their sons, so they stop competing with others in the marriage market through savings. However, after we exclude the bottom and top 5% savers, the conclusions become ambiguous. It may also be interesting to see how saving rate responses to child's gender with living in urban areas or rural areas. Therefore, we divide our samples into urban households and rural households in Table 4. The coefficient of child's gender is statistically significant at 1% level for urban households while not significant for rural ones. Additionally, the effect of having the son on saving rate is much greater for urban families. One plausible explanation could be that because the housing market is organized differently between urban and rural areas, having more male children in the society may bid up housing prices more in urban areas. Since parents of a son are often expected to help out with the cost of purchasing an apartment for the newlyweds, this would translate into greater pressure to raise their savings rates. In order to broaden our perspective, we decided to study how the immigrant families from Asia and the United States saving behavior form. Due to the data limitation, we cannot find the direct statistics on Chinese immigrant families. While a lot of Asian countries share very similar cultural roots, it is reasonable to generalize on a broader level. In the consumer expenditure data published by the U.S. Bureau of Statistics in 2014, we have altogether 6,483 observations across the United States. For this part of research, we would like to study whether the phenomenon that Asian group has statistically higher saving rates than the other races can be explained by their cultural roots. To put it another way, if other relevant factors being controlled, would there be a statistically significant difference of saving rates between an Asian family and a family immigrated from other parts of the world? Although previous studies that have similar hypotheses as ours find no significant evidence for cultural impact on the difference in saving behaviors, this time we're using US data instead of Canadian data the two previous researchers used. And this time we do not limit our observations to 3 people family, as it is much more common to have more than 1 children in the US overall. In the database, Asian respondents take up around 5% of the total sample size, while Asian couple, excluding the interracial marriage, take around 2.7%. Since respondents' unwillingness to reveal spouse's race happens, so the number should be biased downwards. There are several variables we include in this model: number of males age 16 and over, number of females age 16 and over, number of males age 2 through 15, number of females age 2 through 15, weighted cumulative percent income ranking of consumer unit to total population, respondents' education level, and social welfare level, determined by amount of Social Security and railroad retirement income to personal income, and so on. The OLS models is as follows. We create the dummy variables for Asian couples and interact the term with another dummy variable, whether they have boys aging from 2 through 15. Since we exclude the top and bottom 1% of the data, there are actually altogether 6,479 observations. The OLS model shows that whether a family immigrated from Asian country or such family has young boys does not affect household savings rate. What is beyond our expectation is that families with one more boys over 16 has on average 0.1 more savings rate, while families with one more girl over 16 have on average 0.06 more savings rate. There exists a 4% difference between these two situations. It might be explained by that parents are more likely to save money for their boys to go to college or study abroad, or people generally think it is more probable for boys to get into elite colleges with high tuitions than their girls. Since there does not exist such tradition in the United States that males should buy an apartment to marry a girl or pay more for the wedding, the marriage market theory is not applicable in this circumstance. Other than a gender difference of children over 16, household income rank also plays a role in savings rate. Higher income families tend to save more. A 1% increase in income rank makes one family's savings rate increase by 1.14% on average, if other factors being controlled. Now let's take a look at the quantile regression. It shows that households with higher savings rate tend to be less likely to change their savings behavior by the number of boys over 16. In the quantile regression, the families with girls aging through 2 to 15 have a lower savings rate on average. That can be seen as a result that people tend to spend more on young girls. It also displays that families with better social welfare tend to save less. Correspondingly, social welfare effects on low savings rate families' saving behavior is greater than high savings rates families. The conclusion on the broader level makes us feel a little suspicious about the previous conclusion related to Chinese marriage market. It seems that it is a worldwide phenomenon that families with boys tend to save more. However, one question is that how detached from the traditional culture is the Asian group we observed? In other words, is that possible that the cultural effect we would like to explore in determination of the savings rate does not exist because the immigrants very well integrated into the local culture, so they do not have close connection with the traditions they have at their home country? A professor at UCLA, Keith Chen, contributes the savings rate difference across countries to language. He argues that languages that grammatically associate the future and present foster future-oriented behavior. Grammatically separating the future and the present leads speakers to disassociate the future from the present. This would make the future feel more distant, and since saving involves current costs for future rewards, would make saving harder. Some languages grammatically equate the present and future. Those speakers will be more willing to save for future, which appears closer. Mandarin is one of the languages that makes less distinction between the present and future.
So for example, if I'm speaking in English, I have to speak grammatically differently if I'm talking about past rain, it rained yesterday, current rain, it is raining now, or future rain, it will rain tomorrow. Notice that English requires a lot more information with respect to the timing of events. Why? Because I have to consider that and I have to modify what I'm saying to say it will rain, or it's going to rain. It's simply not permissible in English to say it rained tomorrow. In contrast to that, that's almost exactly what you would say in Chinese. A Chinese speaker can basically say something that sounds very strange to an English speaker's ears. They can say, yesterday it rained, now it rained, tomorrow it rained. In some deep sense, Chinese doesn't divide up the time spectrum in the same way that English forces us to constantly do in order to speak correctly.
This might also be one of the reasons why we cannot prove that the culture plays a role in household saving behaviors, as immigrants in the US mostly speak English. The thinking modes are also switched to the English language as an indispensable component of culture. Is lost in this group of people, so having no statistically significant difference between this group of people and the other immigrants is reasonable. Thanks for watching our video.